Climb aboard the Unclassic Road Trip Adventure Matinee. Today's trip, America's Memorials to Military Heroes and Veterans. Memorial Day isn't just about hot dogs and hamburgers, campfires, or a 3-day weekend, which those things are certainly a part. It's about honoring fallen heroes and those who have served this nation and who have fought in battles from this nation's beginning to current time. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a veteran, a family member of someone who has served this nation, or simply kicked back in your armchair, I'm sharing phenomenal war memorials that I have visited that honor our veterans. Memorial Day Reflection from Honolulu. I recently visited Honolulu. This is the location of the memorable Pearl Harbor and the exceedingly compelling National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. I want to read this one marker and then stay silent as I take you around Pearl Harbor and this national cemetery. In these gardens are recorded the names of Americans who gave their lives in the service of their country and whose earthly resting place is known only to God. Both my dad and stepdad served in World War II and were both proud Navy men. My dad died on Memorial Day, a day that always meant so much to him. And my stepbrother proudly served in the U.S. Navy, of course, during Vietnam. If you would like to place your family member's name or names in the comments that have served our nation, you are welcome to do so, or are currently serving. I also want to add that every time I see a man with a ball cap identifying them as a person who served our nation, I always speak to them and thank them for their service. Have a great Memorial Day, but don't forget to shake the hand of one who has served. The small town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, was the site of the largest Civil War battle ever waged. The Battle of Gettysburg opened on July 1, 1863, and closed 2 days later with the climactic Pickett's Charge. It resulted in a Union victory for the Army of the Potomac and successfully turned back the second invasion of the North by General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. Over 51,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured, making it the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. It was also a major turning point in the war, and historians often refer to this battle as the high-water mark of the Confederacy. It was the last major effort by Lee to take the fighting out of Virginia and into the northern states. Don't miss going to the observation level on the Pennsylvania Monument. We are in Midland, Texas, near Odessa, Texas, and yesterday we were driving around to show you great sights around the Permian Basin, and I saw the Chris Kyle Memorial we had to stop. A day to honor Chris Kyle, American hero, died February 2nd, 2013. The late Navy SEAL, Christopher Scott Kyle, was born April 8th, 1974, in nearby Odessa, Texas. Now let me tell you a little bit about this American hero. Chris Kyle joined the Navy in 1999 and quickly gained admittance to its elite SEALs unit. Kyle served 4 deployments in Iraq. He has an autobiography that became a bestseller and turned into a major Hollywood film directed by Clint Eastwood. But as February 2nd, 2013 rolled around, Kyle was murdered in Texas near Fort Worth on February 2nd, 2013. Now, let's learn a little bit more about this Navy SEAL and this beautiful monument honoring him. After weathering a demanding selection process, Kyle was selected for and trained with a special purpose. Over the course of his 10-year military career, Kyle served 4 combat deployments to Iraq. His marksmanship became renowned not just within the American military, for whom he was charged with protecting, but among insurgents as well. He had a nickname, and he had a bounty on his head. Kyle's steel nerves and patience for tracking subjects earned him 2 awards of the Silver Star and 5 awards for the Bronze Star. Kyle left the military in 2009. In his post-Navy life, Kyle followed a number of different pursuits, many of them no doubt aided by the fame his book brought him. With his hulking presence and quiet demeanor, Kyle encapsulated the image of a military hero. Kyle's life came to a tragic end on February 2nd, 2013, when he and a colleague, Chad Littlefield, were shot at a gun range outside of Fort Worth, Erath County, Texas, by Eddie Ray Routh, an ex-Marine who had a long history of mental illness. Kyle was 38 years old. I'm sure many of you know more of the story because he became such a famous figure when this happened. Kyle's murder drew an outpouring of support, especially in his home state of Texas, where an estimated 7,000 people attended a public service for the late SEAL at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington. In addition to his wife, Taya, Kyle's survivors included his 2 young children. Now let me read this plaque about the Chris Kyle memorial symbolism. It's very intriguing. The materials. They are black granite and white Texas limestone. And this is a quote by Chris Kyle. "I have a strong sense of justice. It's pretty much black and white." So that's why they chose black granite and white Texas limestone. All 50 states are represented in the trident bands. Most recognizable symbol of SEALs is the trident. It is received once they become a Navy SEAL and is worn proudly. You will see the limestone trident accent bands. The memorial form has 3 circles. Chris Kyle was a member of SEAL Team 3. The 3 circles represent his belief system: God, country, and family. The memorial size is the average latitude of Odessa, Texas, and Coronado, California. That's 32 degrees. The average longitude of Odessa, Texas, and Coronado, California is 110 degrees. If you're not familiar with Coronado, California, well, it's Navy SEALs territory. And interestingly enough, we met one of the old-time Navy SEALs before they were called Navy SEALs. Does anyone know what they were called? I'll tell you at the end of this video. The diameter of the side plazas is 32 feet. The angle between walls is 110 degrees. 1 tree for each deployment donated by President George W. Bush and First Lady Laura Bush from their Crawford Ranch. And all military branches are honored with individual dog tags. SEALs use a frog skeleton to honor fallen brothers. This is all very beautiful, and I hope you can appreciate what these people have done here to honor this American hero. In October 2014, prosecutors announced they would not seek the death penalty against Routh. Routh's trial lasted 2 weeks and deliberations less than 2.5 hours. On February 24, 2015, that's coming up on 10 years ago, the jury found Routh guilty of murder, and the judge sentenced the veteran to life in prison without parole, minutes after the verdict was rendered. Now let's read this black granite wall. God, trident, persevere, innovation, resolve, reputation, bond, strength, guardian, thrive, serve, team, sacrifice, country, character. They were among the best of us, boys who grew into men and who sometimes never made it back home. They stood tall for us, for all of us. We can't forget them. Responsibility, uncompromising, discipline, honor, integrity, forged, principles, protect, family, tradition. Skill, brave, defend, heritage, adversity. You will find this monument in front of Veterans Permian Basin Outpatient Clinic, MCH, the Center for Health and Wellness. What wounded veterans don't need is sympathy. They need to be treated like the men and women they are, equals, heroes, and people who still have tremendous value for society. If you want to help them, start there. It is said that when you reach out your hand to help a veteran, they won't grab your hand with two hands, they grab it with one, and then they reach behind them to help up the next veteran. My regrets are about the people I couldn't save. Marines, soldiers, my buddies. I still feel their loss. I still ache for my failure to protect them. I would love for people to be able to think of me as the guy who stood for what he believed in and helped make a difference for the veterans. You know, somebody who cared so much about them that he wanted them taken care of. Raise the flag, O son of mine, and constant vigil keep. Our enemies are far and wide and waiting for our sleep. Remember dawns of Texas days and skies so clear and blue? Fight for them now with all your strength, and may your aim be true. Yet steady yourself for days to come when arrows no longer fly. Forget not your kinsmen then, who stumbled, though they tried. Reach down to them with steady hand and let them see your stare. Lift each one up, dust them off, and show them that you care. It's our duty to serve those who serve us. They were willing to sign a blank check for America, with the cost right up to their life. If they were willing to do that, why shouldn't you be willing to take care of them? It's a beautiful memorial, and I hope if you're ever passing down I-20 in West Texas, you'll take the opportunity and the time to just go north a little bit and catch Highway 191 to go see this beautiful memorial to our American hero, Chris Kyle, who lost his life February 2nd, 2013. And by the way, if you see someone with a ball cap and it says that they are a veteran, stop and take a minute and tell them that you appreciate what they did. Ask them where they were. See if they'll talk a little bit about it. But most of all, shake their hand and tell them thank you for their service to our country. The Navy SEALs used to be called frogmen. Ask your dad. He's probably familiar with the term frogman. Remember the SEALs used the frog skeleton? That's because of the frogmen. I'm taking you to Stonehenge. This is Sam Hill country. In 1908, Samuel Hill bought 7,000 acres on these slopes. He planned a Quaker farming colony, surveyed a 34-block town site, and built a church, hotel, store, offices, garage, and shops. His engineers built 10 miles of experimental roads. As Washington's first rural paved roads, they proved Hill's zeal as a promoter of highways. 3 miles to the west, he began construction of an old-world chateau, which in 1940 was completed as the Mary Hill Museum of Art. In 1918 to 1929, Hill constructed the Stonehenge replica, America's first World War I memorial, on the original site of his hotel. Fire eventually destroyed the buildings of the never-occupied town site, leaving only Stonehenge, roads, and stonework, and the museum as monuments to the vision and energy of this public-spirited America. The structure before you is the first monument in our nation to military personnel who gave their lives in World War I. It is also a lasting reminder of the works of Samuel Hill, patron of this region. The design duplicates in size and original form England's famous Stonehenge, which is dated 1900 to 1300 BC. On Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire. When Hill, a Quaker pacifist, visited England during the 1914 through 1918 conflict, he saw Stonehenge and was told it had been used for human sacrifices to pagan gods. He remarked, "After all our civilization, the flower of humanity still is being sacrificed to the god of war on battlefields." From that inspiration came this monument built by Hill. On July 4th, 1918, the altar stone was dedicated. The full structure was completed and dedicated May 30th, 1929. Current belief is that Stonehenge was a device used by astronomers to measure time and mark seasons of the year by observing positions of the sun and moon. The diagram at left suggests how the original may have been used by the ingenious builders. Here are plaques of some of the men who are being recognized at Stonehenge. in Maryhill, Washington, in memory of the soldiers and sailors of Cliticat County who gave their lives in defense of their country. This monument is erected in the hope that others inspired by the example of their valor and their heroism may share in that love of liberty and burn with that fire of patriotism which death alone can quench. Maryhill Museum manages a 6,000-acre land conservancy that includes much of the landscape visible from where you are standing. Leave a comment below. Tell me about the war memorials that you have visited. I found where the Enola Gay took off. The historic Wendover Airport and Wendover Army Air Base is found at the Nevada-Utah border on I-80. See the operations building where the most heavy bomber crews were trained, including the crews of the famous Enola Gay and Boxcar B-29 bombers that flew over Japan. Get inside a gutted plane, see the atomic mission hangar and barracks compound. Climb the restored 1942 World War II control tower. Ugly Shoes climbing the 60-foot tall control tower, taking you on an unclassic road trip across America with me. Civil War, the grand finale, and you all thought it was Appomattox. Well, you'll learn in this video it wasn't Appomattox. As we learn, more faces and places. At Bennett's place, as a matter of fact, it's a farm home of James Bennett, where Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston surrendered his army to Union General William T. Sherman, April 26, 1865. Johnston's surrender followed Lee's at Appomattox by 17 days. And ended the Civil War in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. This is located on the North Carolina Civil War trails. It's Bennett Place, the end of the war, Carolinas campaign. And welcome to Bennett Place. Start your visit at the Historic Site Visitor Center. The guides are fantastic and they will explain probably more than you really even need to know about this historic site. Our guide told us all about this painting of Sherman and Johnston. After the failure of the first surrender negotiations, Ulysses S. Grant was ordered to take charge of the federal armies in North Carolina. But due to his loyalty to Sherman, he advised his friend to resume negotiations with the same terms given to Lee at Appomattox. Sherman demanded that Johnston return to the negotiating table or face the resumption of hostilities. The two met for a final time about noon on April 26. Sherman presented the more stringent terms with no mention of political or civil rights. Jefferson Davis rejected them and ordered Johnston to withdraw from the negotiations, escape with his cavalry, and continue to fight. However, Johnston, war-weary and realistic as to the Confederacy's fate, disobeyed Davis and continued the negotiations. He surrendered all troops in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. That's 89,270 soldiers. Parolees were issued to these Southern soldiers in May 1865. So it's not all about Appomattox Courthouse, which is a great place to go, and you'll want to go to the McLean House. But today, we're at the Bennett Farm. The two generals met upon the road, warmly greeting each other with extended hands. I bet. On a brow of a hill a few yards farther on, there was a small farmhouse, to which they repaired for consultations, while the general officers and staffs who accompanied their respective chiefs fell, after a few moments, into amicable conversation. Major George Ward Nichols, aide-de-camp to Major General Sherman. Sherman had arrived by train at Durham Station on April 17th and was escorted northwest along the Raleigh to Hillsborough Road under a white flag. Meanwhile, Johnston and his escorts rode eastward from Hillsborough, also led by a white flag. Although they had opposed one another for years, the men met face to face for the first time here at Bennett Place. After introducing themselves to the family, the two went to work inside the parlor. Sherman told Johnston of Lincoln's death and then offered him the same terms Grant had given Lee at Appomattox Courthouse. Johnston responded that they were too harsh because, unlike Lee's army, his forces were not surrounded and could therefore withdraw to fight another day. But he ultimately recommended one surrender agreement to end the war, and a surprised Sherman eagerly concurred. They agreed to return to the Bennett farm the next day. Your agreement touches upon questions of such vital importance that, as soon as read, I addressed a note to the Secretary of War notifying him of their receipt and the importance of immediate action by the President, and suggested, in view of their importance, that the entire cabinet be called together, that all might give an expression of their their opinions upon the matter. The result was a disapproval by the president of the basis laid down because Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated just days prior. Andrew Johnson was the president. And you'll want to watch my video, From Poorhouse to the White House, and it's all about Andrew Johnson. This all occurred under his presidency. President Andrew Johnson and the cabinet members and the United States Congress considered the terms too lenient, especially in light of Lincoln's assassination. Sherman's problems multiplied when the agreement was leaked to the New York Herald, which reprinted it along with a harshly worded rebuttal. Accused by some of being a traitor, cabinet members discussed relieving Sherman of his command. Throughout the North, citizens were outraged by the terms and questioned Sherman's patriotism, intelligence, and even his sanity. The small visitor center is packed with great information and memorabilia. Like this regimental flag, this is a reproduction. It was copied from one of 5 surviving flags of the Richmond Depot 5th Bunting pattern. The original flag is in the collection of the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh. The flag was carried by the 51st Regiment, North Carolina Infantry, organized in Wilmington in April 1862. This unit was included in the Confederate forces surrendered to Major General Sherman at Bennett Place. Step outside and see the reproduction buildings of the Bennett's farm. And this large monument notes the history of the events on the evening of April 25th, when General Johnston asked another interview with General Sherman to renew negotiations. And on the 26th at 2 p.m., the generals met a third time in the Bennett House and signed the terms of a military convention under which 36,817 Confederate soldiers in North Carolina and 52,453 in Georgia and Florida laid down their arms. This monument marks the spot where the military force of the United States of America finally triumphed, establishing the principle of an indissoluble union. It marks also the spot of the last stand of the Confederacy in maintaining its ideal of indestructible states, an ideal which preserved to the American Union by virtue of the heroic fight grows in strength from year to year. Although most of North Carolina struggled to rebuild after the war, a small railroad stop of Durham Station began to grow as a result of interest in the area's unique bright leaf tobacco, which soldiers on both sides of the conflict had enjoyed. Many local farmers, some of whom were Confederate veterans, began to rejuvenate their farms. Soon the tobacco business flourished. Shops and factories sprang up, and on April 10, 1869, the North Carolina General Assembly voted to incorporate the new community of Durham. I had 4 days to tour Washington, D.C. at the National Mall. Walking into America's heart, we found this war memorial and statue. History alert, I'm serious. This place is Overload City. The National World War I Memorial is a planned memorial commemorating the service rendered by members of the United States Armed Forces in World War I. It is located at 14th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. The park, which has existed since 1981, also contains the John J. Pershing General of the Army's commemorative work. Dedicated in 2021, the World War I Memorial and John Pershing statue pays tribute to 4.7 million Americans who served in World War I. General Pershing commanded the American Expeditionary Forces in Europe. One could spend almost an hour reading the absolutely beautifully designed maps and information carved in stone at this mindful memorial. Not only did many Americans serve in World War I, but many soldiers never returned to their families. Returning to the western side of the ellipse, we've spotted the beautiful 1st Division Memorial located in President's Park. The monument commemorates those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division of the U.S. Army of World War I and subsequent wars. Next, the Tempo Buildings. I was drawn down the path to the sign talking about Tempo Buildings. What was a Tempo Building? Temporary World War II era government offices that became semi-permanent due to growing federal needs. This was something I had never heard of. Let me know in the comments if you ever knew about these temporary buildings ordered by President Franklin Roosevelt. This is kind of a wackadoodle to me. Instead of a peaceful pond, rows of office buildings once squatted on the land in front of you. Franklin Roosevelt ordered the temporary or the Tempo Buildings constructed in 1917 when he was Assistant Secretary of the Navy. He meant for them to stand for 15 years, but instead they outlasted his presidency. The Tempos that stood here came down in 1970, but by then there were dozens of others. One Tempo still stands on 14th Street near the tidal basin. I'm glad they're gone. This stunning memorial was so much larger than I expected. Located at the east end of the reflecting pool lies the World War II Memorial, honoring millions who served during World War II, the home front support, and 400,000 Americans' ultimate sacrifice. The memorial features 56 granite pillars surrounding a pool. Brass bas-relief panels tell the story of America's experience in the war, and Atlantic and Pacific arches climb toward the sky. A wall of stars reminds visitors of the price Americans paid to win the war. Totally magnificent and dramatic. The price of freedom. The Freedom Wall holds 4,048 gold stars. Each gold star represents 100 American service personnel who died or remained missing in the war. Isn't this simply compelling? This is a perfect spot to get breathtaking views and photos of the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. This is one of my I can't breathe moments. The depth of the World War II Memorial and standing here in the center of the National Mall with these iconic monuments flanking me was incredible. The weather was perfect also, I must note. But now, my feet were cut by my new flip-flop straps and really screaming. I didn't have a backup plan except to go barefoot. I did sit on the steps and place my feet in the cool water to get a little relief. A prayer for the nation. This lesser-known site offers a moment of quiet reflection within the busy National Mall. Next is the heart-wrenching Vietnam Veterans Memorial, clustered with the Women's Memorial and the Three Servicemen statue. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial was unveiled in 1982. Maya Lin designed this black granite wall. The long wall is inscribed with more than 58,000 names of the U.S. servicemen who died or went missing during the Vietnam War, or Vietnam conflict as some call it. There is a ledger of names if you would like to find the location of the name of a friend or loved one etched on the wall. If you knew anyone that was forever changed by this war, this place should be on your bucket list. Maya Lin designed a simple yet elegant and powerful memorial. Close by, you'll find the Vietnam Women's Memorial, honoring the women who served many different roles in the Vietnam War, and Frederick Hart's statue of the Three Servicemen, honoring those who fought and returned from the war. The Vietnam Women's Memorial was dedicated in 1993 and honors the nearly 11,000 women, especially nurses, who served during the Vietnam War, spotlighting their often overlooked contributions. The Three Servicemen statue is a realistic bronze trio standing facing the Vietnam Memorial Wall, representing unity among U.S. troops, and it was placed there in 1984. What was next was the Korean War Veterans Memorial. It is so captivating. Walk the path along 19 stainless steel statues that appear as a patrol squad moving through rugged terrain. This memorial honors the 5.8 million Americans who served during the Korean War. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The United States, under United Nations Command, rushed to defend South Korea. In 1953, an armistice established a demilitarized zone, known as the DMZ, near the 38th parallel. Today, South Korea remains an independent, democratic nation. The granite wall along this path contains over 2,400 images, actual faces of those who served. They represent the medics, chaplains, engineers, pilots, and other personnel who supported the troops. Artists removed identifying information and shadowed the images with Eastern light before sandblasting them into the granite. The mural looks like Korea's mountains when viewed from afar. We knew that war through our feet. We walked every inch of that country, an unnamed Korean War veteran. Dedicated in 1995, it honors those who served in the Korean War between 1950 and 1953. When reflected in the adjacent wall, the 19 stainless steel statues representing soldiers on patrol appear to be a squad of 38, a symbolic reference to the 38th parallel. This is truly an amazing memorial. In recent years, a granite wall was added listing names of the U.S. and South Korean members who died. At the end of the war, 1.5 million American veterans returned to a peacetime world in a country long reluctant to view the Korean War as something to memorialize. This memorial honors those who worked and fought under the trying circumstances of the Korean War and those who gave their lives for the cause of freedom. Before crossing Independence Avenue, we looked around and read the markings on the District of Columbia War Memorial. This peaceful-looking dome honors Washington, D.C. residents who served and died in World War I. This entire place is a reminder of the struggles this nation has undergone even prior to its founding. The courage and the price paid for by faceless millions are honored in this, our nation's capital. It's not a vacation, it's a lesson in courage. It's about honor. It's about remembering. Let's explore Arlington National Cemetery, and specifically the tomb of the unknown soldier and the changing of the guard. 21 steps south, face east 21 seconds, face north 21 seconds. 21 steps north, face east 21 seconds, face south 21 seconds. Repeat until relieved. These tomb guard sentinels, elite volunteer members of the U.S. Army's 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, watch the tomb 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, rain or shine, and have done so for almost 80 years. The tomb has been guarded year-round continuously since 1937, when the first 24-hour guards were posted. Since April 1948, sentinels from the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard, have been watching over the hallowed memorial. Wait till you hear what the state of Vermont has to do with the tomb of the unknown soldier. It's more important than you can imagine. It's beautiful. It's touching. You will want to hang on to find out. The best way to explore Arlington National Cemetery is to go there yourself. As we endeavor on this amazing trip to Arlington National Cemetery, I will also be taking you to other places like Vermont and Luxembourg. Why are we going to Lux? In a video about the unknown soldier and Arlington National Cemetery, you will be amazed. After parking in the great parking garage, you will pass through security and then enter the visitor center, where it is filled with all types of memorabilia. I will show you some of the items in there in an upcoming video. Today we're focusing on the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier. The best way to experience Arlington National Cemetery is by the trolley tour. Based on the number of funeral services being held that day, the number of stops may be abbreviated, as it was on the day that we visited. Our tour went to the Kennedy family gravesite, the tomb of the unknown soldier, and Arlington House, and returned us to the Welcome Center. If you can walk around this cemetery and explore it and not be choked up a number of times, well, you certainly should be. As we were riding around on the narrated tour bus between stops, and our tour guides would talk about the graves and who was buried here and who was buried there, I couldn't fight back the tears in many occasions. And I think you will feel the same. At the end of this video, I will reveal the connection between George Washington, Robert E. Lee, and Arlington National Cemetery. You won't believe it. You can catch the trolley at any time. They run every 15 minutes throughout the busy day. You may hop on and hop off all day long and repeating stops as you need to, because you'll realize, oh boy, there was something right around the corner and I missed it. I've got to get back on and take the next stop. I hope that the day you visit, they make more than the 3 stops, because we walked and walked and walked, and it was so hot, but it's worth every minute, because what did these men and women do for our country? Why can't I walk around and honor them and remember them and explore Arlington National Cemetery? Travel across America with me. Today, the property is the final resting place for more than 400,000 active duty service members, veterans, and their families. It is a place to remember the men and women who served their nation, and where all who can visit can gain a sense of their sacrifice. At the stop of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you will disembark in the front of a Corinthian-style amphitheater. This glorious Corinthian-style structure is the Memorial Amphitheater. Take some time to not only see the changing of the guard, but walk around this tremendous architectural masterpiece. It is dedicated to the soldiers. One of the inscriptions reads, "We here highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain." This is a gorgeous amphitheater, and I encourage you to walk around and read the inscriptions and appreciate the massive structure and the fabulous architecture. It's simply stunning. There is a tiny little museum, I'll call it, with memorabilia and information about the guards, and a mannequin with the full regalia and the perfect uniform. It's the Tomb Guard Quarters. The Sentinel's Creed. My dedication to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed on me, never will I falter, and with dignity and perseverance, my standard will remain perfection. Through the years of diligence and praise and the discomfort of the elements, I will walk my tour in humble reverence, to the best of my ability. It is he who commands the respect I protect. His bravery that made us so proud. Well, I'm choking up just reading this. Surrounded by well-meaning crowds by day, alone in the thoughtful peace of night, this soldier will in honored glory rest under my eternal vigilance. Simon, 1971. Under authority of Public Resolution 67 of the 66th Congress, approved March 4, 1921, an unknown American soldier was exhumed from each of the 4 American cemeteries in France. They were placed in identical caskets and assembled at Chalon-sur-Marne. The unknown soldier was selected on October 24, 1921. Sergeant Edward F. Younger, U.S. Army, carrying a spray of white roses, entered the room where the 4 unmarked flag-draped caskets were resting. He slowly circled, silently placing the rose on one of the caskets. Thus, the unknown soldier was officially designated. The 3 remaining unknowns were then returned to the Meuse-Argonne Cemetery. The unknown soldier was placed aboard the U.S. cruiser Olympia, which arrived at the nation's capital on November 9, 1921. The honored remains were taken to the rotunda of the United States Capitol to rest in state until Armistice Day. On November 11th, the unknown soldier was moved to the Memorial Amphitheater in Arlington National Cemetery. After services in the amphitheater, the remains were borne to the sarcophagus for brief committal rites. The impressive ceremony closed with 3 salvos of artillery, the sounding of taps, and the national salute. And as you continue to read the sign while you were there, you will learn how other unknowns were designated as the unknown soldier. For example, the 79th Congress approved on June 24, 1946, for 13 unknown Americans who lost their lives while serving overseas in the armed forces of the United States during World War II to be exhumed from American cemeteries in Europe and Africa and shipped in identical caskets to Epinal, France. Major General Edward J. O'Neill, U.S. Army, on May 12, 1958, solemnly chose from among these caskets one to be designated as the transatlantic candidate unknown. The remaining unknown Americans were reinterred, and the plaque continues to explain how this was done other times. This is a very solemn and grave place, and one that we should honor and respect.
Order! On!
What does Vermont have to do with the tomb of the unknown soldier? Vermont is synonymous with marble, and we were fortunate to tour the Vermont Marble Exhibit and Museum. And inside, one of the most compelling things was the information on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Yes, they have an exact replica of the tomb of the unknown soldier, and you can step in and look at the information, the blueprints, and the procedures of how it was constructed and transported to Arlington National Cemetery. Simply incredible. There's so much to learn about the tomb of the unknown soldier, and it reaches into not only France, but Vermont. This was one of the most interesting pictures. It had this sign on the side, Monument to Unknown Soldier, Arlington Cemetery, Washington, from Colorado Quarries of Vermont Marble Company. The loaded rail car equipped with the Vermont Marble Company's advertising sign left Proctor and traveled to Washington, D.C. The finishing details were carved on site, transforming the block into the tomb of the unknown soldier. I bet that was a bit of unknown history also. This is the original blueprint plan for the construction of the tomb of the unknown soldier, dated 1929. The contract price was $14,200 less freight of $721.50, and the builder's discount of $266.05 totaled $13,312.45. FOB, Vermont. All you accountants know exactly what that meant. On March 4th, 1921, the United States Congress approved a resolution providing for the burial of an unknown and unidentified American soldier of World War I in Arlington National Cemetery Memorial Amphitheater. President Warren G. Harding officiated at the first interment ceremony at the tomb of the unknown soldier on Armistice Day, November 11, 1921. Soldiers never die until they are forgotten. Tomb guards never forget. On August 3, 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a bill to select and pay tribute to the unknown soldiers of World War II and Korea. The internment of these unknowns took place on Memorial Day, 1958. President Eisenhower awarded each the Medal of Honor. The unknowns were then interred in the plaza in front of the tomb beside their comrade of World War I. The Vietnam unknown service member was interred at the tomb of the unknown soldier on Memorial Day, May 28, 1984. President Reagan presided over the funeral and presented the Medal of Honor to the Vietnam unknown. The remains of the Vietnam unknown were exhumed May 14, 1998, based on mitochondrial DNA testing. Department of Defense scientists identified the remains of those of Air Force First Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blaisdell, who was shot down near An Loc, Vietnam in 1972. It had been decided that the crypt that contained the remains of the Vietnam unknown will remain vacant. Guys, I can't help but cry when I read this for you, and I will be going to a little bit more detail about the soldiers that were placed in the tomb's honor. As you walk through the cemetery, you may see a horse-drawn caisson carrying an American flag-draped casket, hear the firing of the 3 rifle volleys in the distance, or feel a lump in your throat as a lone bugler plays the 24 lingering notes of taps. These honors remind us of service, sacrifice, and valor. The property is the final resting place for more than 400,000 active duty service members, veterans, and their families. It is a place to remember the men and women who served their nation, and where all who can visit can gain a sense of their sacrifice. While we were there was a celebration memorial service for the Battle of the Bulge. That was an incredible blessing, as our son lived in Luxembourg for a while and had been to the American National Cemetery there to see the grave of George S. Patton, Jr., General, 3rd Army, California, December 21, 1945. The Luxembourg American Cemetery is the only American military cemetery in Luxembourg. General George S. Patton Jr. is buried there, just below the terrace wall, about halfway between the flagpoles. 5,076 war dead of the United States of America from World War II rest here. Most died in the fighting north of the city and eastward to the Rhine during the winter of 1944 and the spring of 1945, as well as in air operations over the regions. Additionally, the names of 371 Americans whose remains were never recovered or not identified are inscribed on the 2 stone pylons below the chapel on the paved terrace. 2 stars mark the names of those who were subsequently found. 101 headstones mark the graves of the unknowns. Unknown soldiers are not only at Arlington, but at other places honoring our military abroad. Therefore, it was extra special to be able to be, at a distance of course, at the Battle of the Bulge ceremony there at Arlington National Cemetery. I encourage you to go there as soon as you can to honor, to remember, and to explore. I hope that you will subscribe and watch more of my videos that capture traveling through this fabulous nation and exploring and appreciating our American history. Steeped in history, Arlington National Cemetery's scenic landscape is a living shrine to honor our servicemen and women and the rich heritage of our country. Arlington National Cemetery is located on land that once belonged to George Washington's step-grandson, George Washington Parke Custis. In 1857, Custis left the property to his daughter, Mary Anna Rudolph Custis, and it became the family home for her and her husband, Robert E. Lee. After the Lee family vacated the property at the onset of the Civil War in 1861, the grounds were used for various purposes, including serving as a camp and headquarters for federal troops during the Civil War, and later providing a safe haven for former slaves seeking freedom. Arlington National Cemetery held its first military burial on May 13, 1864. The tomb has a flat-faced form and is relieved at the corners and along the sides by neoclassical pilasters, set into the surface with objects and inscriptions carved into the sides. The 1931 symbolism of the objects on the north, south, and east sides changed over time. On the north-south panel are 3 wreaths on each side representing a world of memories. Each wreath has 38 leaves and 12 berries. The east panel that faces Washington, D.C. are the Greek figures representing peace, victory, and valor. On the west panel is inscribed, "Here rest in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." Tennis shoes on the ground, an unclassic road trip at Arlington National Cemetery.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? I am Sentinel Rat of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, United States Army. Guard of Honor, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The ceremony that you are about to witness is the changing of the guard. In keeping with the dignity of this ceremony, it is requested that everyone remain silent and stand. Thank you. Forward! March! Guards! Halt! Port! Arms! Ready! Face! Present! Arms! Port! Arms! Ready! Face! Pass! On your orders!
Halt and order. Remain as directed.
Word! Acknowledge! Ready! Face! Present! Arms! Right shoulder! Arms! Pose! Right! Face!
Take a moment to honor a member or former member of the armed forces today.